I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for Mental Health. Again, as a warning, if you're a mental health professional, there might be some things shared on here that you don't like or disagree with. That's okay. It's okay. And so today we have a special topic. And Tim, what's the title of today's topic on what we're going to go with?
I'm sorry, I don't have that 100%. I'm
Something about
mine is racing from the last one.
Yeah, no, it's something about how do you live with the death of a relationship when the person is still alive?
Yeah.
And so, I've got a brother who I was talking to a while back, a few months back, and he's going through a divorce after 30 years of marriage. And I said, "Hey, buddy," I said, like, I can't relate to that, but like in empathy, it seems like empathy is something that the world really needs and doesn't have. Like nobody. So how do I have empathy? I just think of what's the closest thing that I could, like the person's going through something really tough. And so, his wife wants a divorce. He doesn't. She wants the divorce. And he was a pastor for 10 years and stuff. And so I thought about my son dying, 3 years ago. And I said, in some ways, Ken, what you're going through, I can see is harder than what I'm going through because you're going through the death of a marriage, after 30 years. And that's, how my son, he was 30 years old too. And so many memories, so many memories. And so, as a husband wife, you're going to have even more memories, you know. And so you have all these memories. And I said, it's almost like you've gone through, Emily's death and she's not dead. And I said, I can see how that could be even harder. I'm not saying harder. I'm just saying it's different, but it's harder in some ways, right? It's okay. And so, um, so how do you heal from something like that? I don't know where she came from. I think off of LinkedIn a few days, I think, after Jonathan's death. I was talking to her, total stranger, Vera from Russia. She called, somehow she got an appointment with me, and so I'm talking to her, and somehow Jonathan's death came up. And she said, Mark, do you know why you healed so fast from Jonathan's death and your mom and your dad's death and your grandma's death? I said, I don't. And she said, because you look at death very, very, very differently than most people do. I said, okay. She said, you don't look at Jonathan being dead. Now, I understood what she was saying, and she was right. Like, there's no question in my mind. I mean, even 3 years later, I don't know, a week or so ago, where it's like, I can't believe he's gone. And my brother, Ken, he was there after Jonathan died, and he was with the family. And he's like, Mark, it's like a bloodbath here. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. He's like, I think your kids are hurting each other. They don't even know they're hurting each other. I'm like, how in the world can you not know that? Like I couldn't, the things they were saying, I'm like, how can you be so cruel to one another? But then my older brother, Vern, like the things he said to me and some of, about my kids and stuff, it's like, like he was really cruel. I mean, it's fine. And my brother, Dan, like he was really cruel, like mean, not only to me, but my wife too. Like, what are you doing? And so what Vera meant is that, like, I understood death, in a way very few people understand, which helps me to heal from. I mean, getting healed is easy. Staying healed is hard. And I would think that the same thing is true with relationships, where like if we look at the relationship, like the first year that Jonathan died, it was easier than the second year. Because the first year, if I was hurting too bad, I would just bring my mind to a place where he was just stupid. I love the kid, one of my best friends, miss him like crazy. But let's face it, he did some stupid things. And he knew that. And I love that about him. Like, and he hurt people. And he tried. And so the first year I could remember all the pain. So that helped me to, all the pain that because he was I'm like, I don't miss that. I don't miss this. And I don't miss that about that. Like, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. Second year, I said to my wife, I said, I think it's going to be harder the second year. And it was. Why? Because like all the quote unquote bad memories were healed the first year. Like he was that, and he did do that. And he said these and he did this. And, he hurt the other kids. Like, but the second year, it's like all I could do is remember the good memories, which was more painful, but not a bad pain. So I don't know, Tim. I mean, I've had some death of relationships that the person's not dead. A handful, maybe a couple handfuls. Like I said to my brother Ken this last week, we were talking like almost 2 hours. I said, Ken, I just miss Vern and Dan. He's like, you do? I'm like, I do. I mean, and it's okay though. So Lily, my 3-year-old granddaughter at the time, she says, Grandpa, picture. And I show her the family picture and she says, that's Jonathan. I said, it is, honey. And she's 3. And she's like, he's dead, Grandpa. I'm like he is, honey. And she said, and that's okay. And I said, it is, honey. So, like, if what I learned from that, where he's not dead, but he is physically, he's dead. And one of the things I miss the most is creating new memories with him. Like I knew about when my mom and dad died, especially my mom, were the closest people in the world to me. I thought my relationship was done with her, but it wasn't. And you still hear her voice. I mean, my dad and I had, it wasn't terrible, but we weren't close. Like when he died, it was like, no big deal, kind of in a way, which is kind of sad. But my mom, very different. But it's okay because she still lives within me. So I think, Tim, the death of a relationship, I think that you go through a period of grieving and maybe on one of the other podcasts, we can bring up Jonathan's website because there's a grieving model. And I think there's the 7 stages of grief or something like that people go through. Some famous psychologist. And I used that, but then I enhanced it. And I actually did what you said on the previous podcast, the amiable one, about where you said you turn your pain into a superpower. And I enhanced his model and I added, I think, 1 or 2 more steps to it. And so we could look at that in another podcast. But I think if you draw from, like, there's things about the relationship that you really loved, and that's good. And then there's other parts of the relationship that, not so much, and that's okay too. And there's things that, she did to really help you. And then some things most likely that really hurt you. And so I think like being present and saying, it's okay to go ahead and miss her. It's okay to say, I don't miss that part of her. It's okay to say, it's almost like you're at a smorgasbord, Tim, Like you get to eat whatever you want to eat. Like, you know, with a relationship where it's dead, it's a dead relationship. The person's not dead. In a lot of ways, that's harder, you know, because the person's still alive. And so, but I think it's still a smorgasbord. You can pick and choose what do you want. And it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel like any feelings you have. It's okay to have all of those feelings. Those feelings are not truth. Those feelings are feelings. And you get to decide which feelings to have. And I think even more important than that, to accept the feeling, and even more important than that, is to understand I can take this feeling and I can turn it into something magically good, or I can allow this feeling to bring great harm to me. Thoughts or questions on that, Tim?
I really enjoy that smorgasbord, references. Um, Taking it as I will, like, in while being in that relationship, you had to face certain things that you didn't want to face a lot of the time, and that goes for a lot of relationships that I've lost. But being outside those relationships it doesn't mean I have to run away from my wrongdoings, but I can take it as I will. As you know, some days I wake up ready to, face the world. Today I woke up and I was not feeling it. I was like, I'm going to do my basic Sunday activities, jump on the call, take a nap, do what I need to do. And now I'm awake and ready for the day. And, I'm going to go work out after this and not take a nap like I usually would on a Sunday. But definitely taking as you will is you still need to face those things at some point in your life. And you can face it in a different way from a different outer perspective, because it's more about, in a relationship, when you do something to hurt somebody, you have to ask yourself the question is, why did I do that to hurt that person?
Right.
How did I hurt that person? And now I can take it from an outside perspective as, why do I hurt people versus hurting that specific person? Is now it's about me. Now it's about what I've done versus this person hurt me there, this person did this person. It's none of that, because that person's no longer there. And I still continue to do things that I did in that relationships towards other people. And it's not just because of that person, because they're not here to control that. And so now it's on me. And so now it's on focusing on, how can I change for me, not for that person? Is a lot of the death of a person without them dying is a realization that you got to do some things for yourself. You have to. It's okay to be selfish sometime, because that selfishness can turn into selflessness and overall help you in any future relationships you might have.
Yeah, that white paper on selfless selfishness, how do you be selfless in a selfish situation? I mean, the flawless thinking model, I think, is really cool as it incorporates the past, the present, and the future. It incorporates the personalities. It helps us to understand and take ownership into things where, like, to own the things that we should own. Don't own things we shouldn't own, but always own the things we should own. And then it talks about feelings and the truth and how that sets us free, and how to learn to ask curious questions and to be humble, truly humble. Like, like epistemic humility, a profound sense of how little anyone can know and how important it is to open and change your mind. Like epistemic, like, whoa, the guy's introduced, through Beth Smith on that. And it's like, what is that? She says, you're the first patient I've ever had, first client I've ever had that I've ever said this to. You have epistemic humility. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. When she when she shared it with me, I'm like, wow, it's true. And so I think that, I think that in the quantum feeling model, there's this addiction to, there's this addiction to entitlement, addiction to self-righteousness, and addiction to victimhood, being a victim. And the vaccine, I think so a lot of times in relationships, they're not healthy for either party because we feed one another's entitlement, self-righteousness, and victim. Like we say, we come together with somebody and we say, well, you're entitled, I'm entitled. And it works, we think, but it doesn't. And well, you and I are, we're right, they're wrong. Or you and I have been victims. And so it's like in relationships, we're drawn together for these three things, not realizing that it's not going to work long term. And so it's thankfulness, humility, and ownership. And so this has been a cool podcast, Tim, like all of them that I have with you. I appreciate it. They're cool and nice. They're fun. They make me think. Any other thoughts or questions you have, Tim?
I don't think that I have anything. No.
So, if you're, listening to the rebroadcast of this, and you have any questions, connect, definitely, like we say, we care for people. What does that mean? Do we just talk care? Or do we do care? So a lot of times we're just talking care, like, well, I care for this person. Well, who are you going to pass this podcast along to? Like, are you thinking about yourself right now? Or are you thinking about somebody else right now? Like, who else could benefit from this? And I think that's one of the healings from death, whether it's a physical death, emotional death, spiritual death, relational, moral death, like any of that death, like anything. Like, so if you have any questions on anything, we connected, we talked about connect with the individual who invited you to participate, have a conversation. You can agree, disagree, whatever, but have a conversation about it. Or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.